The Flying Lion says,
boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
So glad that I can be back with people who know that it's a Flying Lion.
It shows how much we all love this club.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
It's definitely tougher to be an academy player than it is a pro.
In this club, you don't play just for the club. You play for the fight.
Jersey swap, car of the week, trivia question of the week.
All right, welcome back to the Flying Lion podcast with FC Cincinnati. Taking a break this week, we thought we'd bring back a returning guest who needs absolutely no introduction. We're joined once again by the voice of FC Cincinnati, Mr. Tom Gelehrter. Tom, welcome back to the pod.
Fellas, good to see you. It has been too long. I know we've been working all summer on getting this thing scheduled, so I'm excited. International break got us all lined up and ready to go here for the home stretch of the regular season, but great to see you guys again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, like you said, we've been trying to get you on, and this season just doesn't let up. You know, you got competition after competition, and then, you know, things happen. But now, international window, it seems like everybody, right? Like we're even seeing the players, right? Some of the players are on vacation, you know, just taking a break until this weekend. So we'll see them back in training, hopefully, and getting back into it. But Tom, just to kick off with you, I mean, just reflecting on 2025 season so far, obviously, you know, we'll touch on summer window and everything else, kind of 10-year anniversary stuff. But just to start off, how would you kind of label what 2025 has been for FC Cincinnati that, you know, maybe in one phrase or, you know, multiple phrases, whatever you want to use?
I don't do much in one phrase, so you're going to get stuck in there if you ask me one word, one phrase, anything like that. That's a rarity for me. International break, just to tie a bow on that. I know we're going to talk about Brenner later, but who knew that Brenner at the Bearcats game was the international break like video that we all needed on a Saturday? I think I was at one of my kids' games and I got home and checked my phone and I said, oh, holy smokes, who knew? But we'll talk more about Brenner here in a bit. But this season, you know, it's been a building situation where we've seen this team really good at times. And then we've seen a bit of struggle at times. And I think in many ways, there haven't been many nights where Pat Noonan's had a complete team, right? Like his best 11 of the roster that's available on that day. And I think that that's increasingly the storyline for the season. And I think Chris Albright, you know, about a week ago did the media availability. He pointed out, I said, look, I'm not making excuses. Like you didn't beat Philadelphia, you don't beat Philadelphia, right? But you want to have your best team out there, and you don't have Obino Obodo, and you don't have Miles Robinson for that match. And so you're a little incomplete, right? Everybody's dealing with those types of things. But if you went through and we're at 29 MLS games to date, if you went through and counted it up, I would bet you that maybe 3 or 4 of those games that you could say that Pat Noonan has had his very best 11 of who's on the roster at the moment, right? Now, my hope is that we'll see that here down the home stretch, and Obi probably still a couple weeks off. But for the playoffs, this could be a very complete team. And, you know, a stacked team with a lot of firepower on the bench. So I hope that's how it shakes out, but it's going to be an interesting couple weeks. And look, they got to get back in the rhythm like we've seen at times this year, you know, especially in the month of July. They were very good in July. Earlier in the season, they were very good. And in June, you know, they've had these other periods where they've struggled a little bit. But I think right now the body of work is incomplete. You want one word? There it is. But that's what we get there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was just going to mention, you know, it feels very much like shades of last year in a lot of ways with the form and how we went through the summer. And then, you know, hopefully the tail end of the season picks up a little bit too. You know, looking at the record as well, the home record, we sit at 7-2-5 at home, a chance to be very similar to last year's. Any thoughts on, you know, what's important for FCC coming down the stretch at home and possibly having a home playoff game?
Man, you got to find that home form, right? I don't think I'm stating anything that nobody else is screaming from the rooftops, but it's mind-boggling, right? It just, you scratch your head right now with the dip in the home form because we haven't really seen that under Pat Noonan. And obviously these 4 seasons, all playoff teams, this is going to be a playoff team, right? You know, whether that's clinched on Saturday or at a later time, this team will play in the playoffs this year, but you want to be a top 4 seed. And now there's not much more wiggle room for losses to guarantee that you're in the top 4 and you get a win against Nashville on Saturday, and you're really going to put yourself in a driver's seat to have a top 4 seed, and a little bit of distance there between you and Nashville, who struggle a little bit as of late as well. But being so good on the road and then not coming home, listen, that was the formula. Remember 23 when they won the Supporter Shield.
Yeah.
Right. They were a very good road team, and they were absolutely dominant at home, and that's why they won the Supporter Shield. If they were having the same form at home, they'd be the Supporter Shield favorites right now. There's no question about that. And instead, now they've gone a couple league games without scoring at home. The consecutive losses, and you're scratching your head. It doesn't really add up, right? I think if I had the formula, then I'd be sitting in Pat Noonan's office right now, not in mine, and he'd be asking me to spell it out for him. But I think that the good news is there's still opportunity, right, to put it all together here. And a couple home games, a couple very important home games, especially the next 2, Nashville and then Orlando on either side of this trip to LA. So I think just regaining that home form, because then that best of 3 series obviously becomes so important. Last year, look, it didn't work out against New York City, but you want to make sure that you have that 3rd game in your building, and then you'll see how the cards lie and what the seeds look like at that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, like Ryan had said, like we opened the season 7 straight matches unbeaten at home, and then I guess June, right? We didn't have a home game in June, and we fell in love with the away matches. But Tom, to kind of go off of the away matches there, what has kind of been in your perspective your favorite away day of the year?
There's no question about that, I think, and it's going to be the most recent one. The Portland trip was amazing. It's different. We get into routines, and Kevin and I have a lot of places that we'll go regularly, on the road. Nashville, we have a restaurant we go to all the time. When we're in Jersey to play New York Red Bulls, we got the same places that we go to. Atlanta, a lot of the same places we go to. So, you get into routines with a lot of the Eastern Conference opponents because we're there every single year. But we've never been to Portland. We were supposed to go in 2020. My brother lives out there. So it was a trip that I very much looked forward to in 2020. Obviously, COVID wiped that away. And so we've been waiting. And LA Galaxy coming up here the following week, a week from Saturday, be the first trip. I've seen a game there, but, FC Cincinnati's never played there. So that'll check another box. And then the only remaining place they have not played is San Diego after that. So Portland shoots probably all time to like top 3 trips.
Oh, hey.
The city's beautiful. Everything around is beautiful. The trees, the mountains, the hikes. Had great meals. We're there an extra day because when you go all the way to the West Coast, the team makes a decision to go in a day early. So they go in on Thursday, train on Friday. We trained at the University of Portland, which was awesome. I mean, you're training and there's like mountains in the background.
Wow.
Yeah.
All this greenery. That was really cool. And the stadium, it's interesting depending on how you look at it. It's a converted baseball stadium. It's turf, although that may change at some point. I guess the Portland Thorns, the NWSL team, trains regularly there.
I'm sure the weather is hard for the grass.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I was talking to some folks about it, and I think there's a thought, or at least a hope, that they could put grass in if the Thorns are not. The Thorns are getting their own training facility, so they won't be training there every day moving forward. If it had grass, it would be a pretty complete facility as far as I'm concerned. It was cool, and they don't have many broadcast booths, so we didn't really have a booth. We kind of had a perch, which in August in the Pacific Northwest is great.
Yeah.
There's probably other times of the year that's not so great. But we were there in August, so that was awesome. I thought everything. And look, we went in there and won and scored 3 goals, kind of silenced the crowd, and they got back into it. But their crowd was awesome. Like their fans, obviously, they have a pretty loyal following there, celebrating their 75th year of soccer in Portland, which is, pretty crazy. 50, not 75. Sorry, 50 years. 75, wild. 50 years of soccer in Portland, and there's a Diego Chara bobblehead around here somewhere. They were giving out that night. So that was very cool. And like I said, it's a new one. It's most recent in my head, but I think Portland is one that hopefully we'll see on the rotation again soon. We could be there 4 or 5 years before we get back there. I hope not, for a lot of selfish reasons.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I wrote this one down because I wanted to revisit. We asked you last year about it, and I was excited here. I think you had touched on a little bit about Monterey last year.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I knew you were excited about Portland, so I wanted to hear your experience of it. But kind of rolling, from that point, I know it was in the summer transfer window. Now the window closes here, just a couple weeks ago. I had heard some of your comments, I think on the radio before about it, but any immediate reactions that you had, of it, or who do you think is going to make the biggest impact for the team down the stretch here?
Yeah, I think, look, there's, the Brenner signing is obviously huge. And, you saw the reaction of everybody as it kind of came to fruition and came to be. And, look, this is a guy who had that unbelievable tear and helped us get to the playoffs for the first time in 2022. Started, mid-June with his first goal of the season and then rattled off 18 and 19 games. I think we all know the talent that he can be. And I was talking to Kevin as the rumors were coming out, and when Tom Gelehrter has it, it's pretty sure. Nobody said anything to me, but if Tom reports it, this is what I tell my kids. They'll ask me, blah blah blah. I read this, or one of my friends sent me this, and I'm like, listen, if Tom Gelehrter has it, then it's pretty good. If Joe with 24 followers has it, it could be, but it's probably not.
Right.
So. That was kind of how it played out. And Kevin and I were talking, and I said, listen, if this is a more mature and more developed Brenner, despite the fact of, what has happened since he left and how he left, the fact that FC Cincinnati reopened the door, and he talked to the media about it last week, and, the credit to Jeff Birding and everything that he did in, being kind of the catalyst to bring him back. And then, having the conversation with Pat Noonan and with Chris Albright and Chris Albright's staff, to vet out and be like, is this the guy we want back in our mix? Because I'll tell you, and we get to fly with the team and travel with the team. Like, the chemistry's great on the team.
Right.
It's probably the best, I would say, that it's been under Pat Noonan. And that's not to say that it was bad before, because Pat came in and said culture, right? His opening press conference, like, I'm going to fix the culture here. And I think he did pretty straight away. But I think in many ways the chemistry is probably better this year.
Wow.
Than it's been the previous 3 years. So, to add in a guy like that, you got to make sure you're getting it right. A guy that didn't leave under great terms with everybody, but then you learn that he did, reach out to Chris Albright and apologize at some point. And look, that's life. Like, we've all made mistakes in life, in professional, personal, whatever it might be. And you go back sometimes and you say, hey, I'm sorry. I know that we're not together anymore, whether that's a personal thing or, a professional thing or whatever. And you're like, I screwed up and I was immature. And that's a sign of growth. So I think that if Brenner can get on the same page with Evander, obviously they have a common language there and hail from the same country, and he get on the same page with Kevin Denke, who should set him up. Overall, he should be surrounded by more talent this year than he was in 2022. Yeah. And that's not taking anything away from Brandon and Lucho, because they were both fantastic and the trio was amazing. But if those three can start firing all cylinders together, then you sure would hope that FC Cincinnati is going to be pretty strong in the attack moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that Ryan and I have been echoing, is like the talent is definitely there. I think just having them all play as a team, being able to get the right formation, the players in the right positions, right? Obviously, people healthy. That's
late in the season too.
Exactly.
See all that come together.
That's the hard part, and everybody's acknowledging it, right? You bring in these players, and I started with Brenner, but I think Ayub Jabari looked really good in the brief time I was out there. He's huge.
Yeah. Massive. Yes.
He looks from the stands or from the press box or wherever you are watching from, So I think that they made the right moves where they needed help, right? Last year, you felt like the window was a little incomplete, and that they maybe didn't get the striker they wanted, and Nico Giacconi, didn't work out, right? And didn't contribute anything. My guess is Brenner's going to contribute something. I hope it's a lot, right? I hope it's a whole bunch of goals,
right?
Because if it's more than 2 or 3 goals, which 2 or 3 goals are going to help, but if it's more than 2 or 3 goals, then it's really going to help, and that would likely mean that his team's played, quite a few playoff games. So. No, I think, I give Chris Albright and his staff a lot of credit, because Kevin and I asked the question to Pat a lot, like, where do you feel weaknesses are? Where do you feel you need depth? And, over the last 2 months, as we've had those conversations with Pat, I would say all of those, needs were filled for Pat Noonan. The problem, as you guys said, is now the very short window of time you have to get them acclimated and on the same page as their teammates.
Yeah, I think with that, I mean, obviously we touched on Brenner and Jabbar. Is there a biggest departure, right? We saw guys, I mean, you were talking about chemistry. Yeah. You know, Yedlin's out. He's a former captain. Santos, huge, you know, chemistry guy in the locker room, right? We were told by Alvis that he's one of the funniest guys in the locker room. So, but
I'll tell you something that he sent me a message after he left, and he said, "I'm going to miss your booth camp celebrations." He said, "I will miss you, and I'll miss your booth camp celebrations." I appreciate that Sergio was a regular subscriber to the boot camp celebrations.
There you go. Yeah.
First and foremost. But, I mean, and he still can be. It doesn't mean you don't have to watch them. They just maybe won't be quite as personal for him. But, yeah, I mean, look, Sergio was the vibes guy, right? And everybody knew that. But he also was a great guy to have come on with 20 minutes left. You know, sometimes, not that we didn't want to see him start, but you want to have him as that weapon when you're seeing those center backs wear out, as someone who's going to come in and just run at guys and create havoc. And look, so that was a tough, you know, I think a locker room loss and a guy that a lot of people liked. You know, the green team, if you talk about the transfer game, I'd say -1 to hits.
Yeah.
It was a guy that had a lot of respect in the dressing room. He left. DeAndre was a green team guy, and Sergio was a green team guy. So they've lost some of their brothers out there, and I think they won the last one before Philadelphia.
Yeah, they like held up the
pennies,
green jersey.
Pennies, their fallen brothers. But no, I DeAndre Yedlin is one that like I can't speak highly enough of that guy for the short time, you know, that he was here. He was class from day number one. I remember really getting to know him under unfortunate circumstances. We got delayed last season going to Montreal. It was Montreal because there was something going on at the airport and we couldn't take off. And we sat literally on the tarmac at CBG for 4 hours.
Wow.
Ended up not taking off. Ended up flying in on the day of the match.
Wow.
And DeAndre was sitting with one of the admins for the team behind me with the player wellness coordinator, Rodrigo, going through houses. And he was looking at one of my neighborhoods, so we started talking. It was just like natural, right? Like he's just a really good guy who got on with everybody, and he's a heck of a soccer player as well. So, you know, I think that one was hard for everyone. Chris kind of acknowledged as much, and look, they tried to do as much as they could to keep him here. I think everybody wanted to keep him here, but just simply did not work out, and so they did right by him. They could have, you know, been a little stubborn on it and said, listen, we want you to stay here and win a championship and we'll figure out your contract stuff later. But he had an opportunity to go to Salt Lake and move closer to home, obviously, and take his beautiful family. And I mean, heck of cute kids. There's a lot of cute kids, and it's funny because the family room's on the 4th floor, which is where the press box is and the broadcast booth. So if you're running to grab food or drink, coffee, bathroom before the game, you often see the families coming and going, and obviously always look forward to seeing the Yedlins walking down the hallway with their fit check of the day. And
that's a lot of style walking out the door.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, we lost the best dressed family in soccer. Like, there's no question about that. But that one I thought was especially tough. Fan favorite, I think, in many ways. A lot of people that the fans really liked. I mean, same can be said with Sergio. Obviously, a lot of people cheered for him, and DeAndre's contributions, you know, a little bit higher. But that's the hard part of this business. And, you know, to bring in a guy like Brenner or to bring on, you know, the pieces and some of the guys, you know, who will take up international slots, you had to maneuver the roster. Right. And as usual, you know, applause for Chris and his staff, because there's some advanced math going on up there, man. Like,
it's impressive. I mean,
the math and, you know,
the
numbers didn't match right away according to the league with the Brenner deal. So they had to reconfigure some things, and they figure it out. So credit to them. They are all way smarter than me.
Sam and I like to go off of what you said the last time you were on. You just say, let Chris cook. And like we've said that so many times now. So
Chef
like,
on
let him do his thing.
Cook, man.
Yeah.
Like people start, I mean, that's what I was telling my kids, because, you know, DeAndre Yedlin, I think that was the kind of the rumor that led everything.
Right.
And my older son got a Yedlin jersey this year, of course.
Oh.
Kind of unfortunate. You know, in the moment, it feels like a really good purchase.
Right.
in February when we're going through the roster, and that's what he wants. Model citizen, great role model, great leader, no problem. And I mean, he's devastated. And I'm like, let Chris cook. Okay, let the man do his job, please.
Yeah. Yep. And speaking about, you talked about the international slots. We're going to switch towards international break now, obviously, that we're in currently. How psyched were you for Roman Celentano to get the call up? I was a little surprised. We were happy for him.
Yeah, no, I was so excited. I mean, what a great human being he is. What a pleasure. It's been having him here for 4 years and just solidifying that goalkeeping position, which obviously was not stable at all the first 3 years in Major League Soccer. And he comes in, under hard circumstances for Alcan, who was doing fine. He's coming off clean sheet when he gets hurt. And Roman so good that he takes over. But yeah, he should get a look in the national team camp, right? I don't know that he'll play in the second game. I hope he does. Right. That would be well deserved. But either way, he's in there training with those guys every day. And the best of the best, or most of them in the United States, and American-born guys. So I think that's awesome. Like, he was fired up when I talked to him. Like, his dad was fired up when I talked to him, and they all should be. And I love that. Look, those games were domestic here. The second one's in Columbus. Right. Quick trip home. I'm sure somebody is up there ready to drive him home. The minute the full-time whistle blows, and bring him back, whether that's his family or whomever it is up in Columbus. Right. He'll be back, sleeping in his own bed, and ready to go for training the next day. So yeah, what a great opportunity. And look, Matt Freese has been the guy of late, and obviously was very good this summer. I'm not convinced yet that Matt Freese is the goalkeeper for World Cup. I don't know that I'm convinced that much about the World Cup. Sadly,
that's fair.
Especially after the performance the other night. I wish I was more convinced on what that World Cup team looked like. Yeah. But let's not rule any. I don't think anybody's. I mean, a couple people are right locked into positions. Pulisic will be starting. I'm confident as long as he's healthy. Sure. So a couple guys are, but I don't think there's any goalkeeper locked into that position at this moment. And I think he needs to keep doing what he's doing. Yeah, Miles will be in the mix. I mean, Miles has to be on that World Cup team. I really, really hope that he's involved. So no, I think it's exciting and a much deserved honor for Roman.
Yeah. So with I mean, we've got 6 guys on international duty, right? I feel like
it's crazy.
This might be the
everybody else making much longer, wilder trips than Roman.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, if we could, I doubt we could probably do it, but if there was a way that we could have 6 games going all at once, because I think they play all on tomorrow, right, or today.
Yeah,
I think
Tuesday
we're listening to this on the 9th. So that would be awesome. Just each game, right, just up on.
If you could find streams for all 6. I give you a lot of credit. A couple of those African games. Out.
Yeah, I was about to say that Streamies right? just went down. So
national team television rights.
Yes,
yeah,
you got that one dialed in. I mean, I saw Kai's goal, which was awesome.
Well, that was
outside the 18. Jeez,
I mean, what a banger for the old man. I mean, that guy's almost as old as I am. So and look, that's another guy that doesn't fall in that recent window of additions, right? But you talk about a guy that I think has been good for the locker room, and a guy that everybody seems to respect, and everybody, I don't know how you can't, but there's been a couple of trips where Kai sits behind me on the plane, and we've had a chance to talk, and he's been awesome. Really cool person to get to know a little bit, and I think man, he's got to get that first goal.
Well, is he trying to get your ear as well? Because I mean, he's got an analyst, future, right? So
that's true. That a fair bit. Not that he's moving. He's not trying to move into Kevin's seat, but I also think he thinks he can play another 3 or 4 years. I don't think he's slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly, Father Time's not going to let him play 390s in a week. Right. But he could still contribute and help teams win, and that's why he's gotten contracts. That's why he's in Cincinnati and part of the mix. But No, it was funny because where were we? I'm trying to think when he went for that Club World Cup coverage, right? He was
in June.
Atlanta. I think we were in Orlando.
Yeah.
At the end of June. He did a couple stints where he went to the Turner Studios in Atlanta and was on the desk. And the first one, we were talking on a plane, and he was asking for some tips and some pointers and what would throw him off and all that kind of stuff. So no, we had a nice chat, and no, I thought he did great. I caught a couple of his segments, and we kind of asked him. Kevin and I were asking him after one of the games, what kind of was the hardest part about it, and he was talking about, which I didn't think of, and I was kind of mad at myself at the time, but you have to wear an earpiece. So the producer could talk to you, tell you to wrap it up.
You get other people.
Extend it. You got 15 seconds. The first couple of times you wear an earpiece, it's like makes your brain spin because someone's talking while
it's an inner
talking.
Conscience. Yeah.
Or the producer might talk to you, but while I'm asking you a question. So the first couple of years that we did TV, Kevin didn't wear an earpiece because I just wanted him to get comfortable.
Sure.
But then when we went to Major League Soccer in 2019, I made him get an earpiece. Like, I made him go get the one that's fit for your ear and everything. And, I remember the first couple of games, he was like, that's terrible. Like, how am I supposed to talk and recap the match while the producers tell me I got 30 seconds, I got 20 seconds. All right, Kevin, wrap it up. 15 seconds, 10 seconds, count them back. You know what I mean? And then giving it back to me and all this stuff. So, yeah, it's he said that was one of the most challenging parts of it. But, Kai's been awesome to have around as well.
Yeah, it seems like, you talk about guys that still have it. We were just recapping, the other day about the 10-year game. How special was that for you to be able to see all those guys again back in Cincinnati? But I think you probably got to commentate for that too, the match, but it was unbelievable, the whole experience. Thoughts on the alumni match and then the whole season, I guess, in general, for what we've seen celebration-wise, patches, different clips. The TIFO was incredible. I think it's just
TIFO was unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's all-timer, right? No, that whole weekend, I thought was spectacular. Just what a job by the club, putting it all together, bringing those guys back. Unbelievable to see some of those faces back in Cincinnati. Danny Kuna. Look at the guys who flew in internationally.
Right.
Mark Village never played in a regular match, right? He never appeared in a regular, meaningful match as the third string goalkeeper. Mark Village flew in with his entire family from Vancouver.
Wow.
But he wasn't allowed to play because he's in firefighter school and they didn't want him to get hurt.
Oh, wow.
So the firefighter school actually shut him down. But he came up to me and gave me the biggest hug. Like he had never left. And, Kendall Waston,
that was crazy.
That was wild. Of a human being. And he was at training on Friday, so I got to spend some time with him, which was great because Kendall and I were always close. He was always close with the boys. And one of my favorite stories from COVID is when I had to go to the facility every other day for testing. That was the cadence. And many of those days I was not working at the facility. I didn't have any, I didn't need to be there except to get swabbed. And at the time I was at home with my kids, doing remote school and all that. So we'd take an hour break from remote school. I'd drive to Milford, get tested, and come right back out. And I tell them, you don't get out of the car. Everybody, you know what I mean? You get near anybody, you're going to catch COVID, all that kind of stuff. And I go in and do my test and come out 5 minutes later, and both boys are out of the car, and they're hugging Kendall. He's giving high fives and all. I'm like, of course, the gentle giant comes through, and here we are. So they were fired up to see him. But yeah, I saw him on Friday, and he was like, I had bad news, Poppy. He was like, I'm not going to play. He said his general manager had called him and shut him down. So
didn't they have the game that day?
They played that weekend, so he missed the game. Yeah. They were down to two center backs. They had two guys hurt.
Wow.
And Kendall flew to Cincinnati for the alumni match.
Wow.
So the GM called and was like, listen, it's okay that you're there, but you are not playing.
Yeah.
Match.
He's like it's one of those situations where I already put in my PTO.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was. He's like, I'm on a plane. I'm taking his family came in.
Wow.
But to see him back, so to get all those guys back, was pretty awesome. But then to get them on the field, and to see Jimmy McLaughlin score at TQL Stadium, which I think everybody was rooting for.
Right.
Manu Ledesma, like I told Manu, I'd seen him after that Leagues Cup game on Thursday, and Danny was at the game, and those two thicker than thieves. And they were chatting in the Tunnel Club afterwards, and I was talking to him, and I was like, you gotta do your classic celebration. The two. And I was like, that means you got to get one, and of course Manu did.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about it. And then
He still got it.
The unexpected hero.
Yeah.
Right. Shades of his hat trick in the U.S. Open Cup against Detroit. So that was. I thought that all of it, and like seeing, I'm very close to Corbin Bone, and seeing how much he enjoyed it, and his kids are grown. His younger son Brooks got to see the tail end of his career, but not really much at an impressionable age. You know what I mean? Like they got the cute pictures of him wearing, the 19 jersey out in the field when he's playing for Louisville City and those kind of things. But like Brooks probably doesn't remember much of that. He's going to remember watching his dad play that night. And
that's pretty cool.
Like that, there's a lot of those guys who didn't have kids back then, who do now. And Andrew Wiedemann being back, I mean, that's another guy, freaking legend, that was awesome to see. So no, I thought it was all really well done.
Did the guys speak about playing obviously in TQL? It's almost like they built kind of that culture, and to see it come to where they can actually play in the stadium, they kind of built in a way. I just think that's so cool.
I agree 100%. I mean, they absolutely are part of the reason that the club is where it is today.
Right.
And, because they were able to help build the culture and build everything that we're all enjoying today, that's because of those guys who helped build this thing up. So no, I give them credit. I give everybody credit for finding the right way to celebrate them and having that match. And the crowd thinned out a little more than maybe I thought it would, but the people who were there were really into it.
That's right.
So like the venue did not lack any enthusiasm.
Right.
Because if you stuck around for one reason. That was to see those guys bang for 30 minutes. And boy, did they ever.
Tom, were you a little worried as we were when we saw Austin Berry kind of pull up towards the sideline?
I had this conversation for the last 3 weeks going up to the match. Like it was the most predictable thing ever.
Yeah. I did tell Ryan, I said he's probably going to pull a hammy here.
The Sean Casey thing. Yeah.
I asked Pat Noonan off air. We were cool when we have our meeting with him about 4:00 before. Well, that day would have been different, but 3.5 hours before the game, we meet with him at TQL Stadium. As we walked out of his office, I kind of jokingly asked, will Austin Berry be able to survive this alumni match? He said, Tommy, you know what I have not thought about? That. He goes, but he better be fit because he runs with the injured guys all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but it's Austin. And he was like, "Well, we'll see."
I'm sure he got a lot of crap at training.
I mean, I asked Austin last week before the Philadelphia game if he was all right. He said, "No, I'm not all right." Like it's been 3 weeks and he's still not all right. You know what I mean? Like he's not running again for a long, long time. Tough break for our friend Austin Berry, but that's how it goes down sometimes.
That's right. So, Tommy, we got Nashville this Saturday. Wanted to just ask your thoughts. Now that we're going down the stretch, any thoughts? Shield versus focusing more towards playoffs now. What's your thoughts on that?
I think your focus is just getting wins, and getting right at home. Like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, you got to get right at home. Got to get wins. So, figure out what happens after that. There'll be, there may be points dropped from the teams ahead of FC Cincinnati, but they can't worry about that. They got a maximum of 15 points available, the rest of the way. If they get all 15 and don't win the Supporter Shield, then so be it. That starts with Nashville. You got to get the separation with Nashville too.
Right.
Kind of like I said, from the beginning, like you win this match and you can breathe again a little bit. Mm-hmm. If it's a draw or God forbid it's a loss, things going to feel really tight here down the home stretch. And so I think that part's, it's a big one. And this Nashville team's kind of lost form as of late. So you've had some time to lick your wounds and feel sorry for yourself. I got people just walking through. Don't mind the crowd here on the fly line tonight.
It's all good.
So It's all good. But no, I think you got to find a way to get this result against Nashville. But they've been better. Look, Henny Mukhtar's back playing at like the MVP of a couple years ago. And Sam Surridge, remember when they brought him in? I think I'm not far enough along in my prep, but I want to say he maybe made his debut against FC Cincinnati or like one of his first games. I want to say he made his debut, right? If not, maybe his first league game or something was against FC Cincinnati. And he came in with so much hype. And man, has he delivered this year, in a really, really big way. So, kudos to Nashville and BJ Callahan. Like they put it together and, turn things around there. And they're very much in contention for one of those top seeds in the Eastern Conference as well. So it's a playoff game for them. It's a playoff game for FC Cincinnati. And, an early goal would do wonders in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to set the tone. The tone. Exactly.
Sam, did you go ahead?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, heading into this match against Nashville, you talk about Henny Mukhtar and Surridge. I mean, Surridge, honestly, it's felt like he hasn't really gotten the credit in the MLS that, he's top of the goal list right now. And I think he's kind of get overshadowed by guys like Messi and, what's going on over in San Diego, right? Like not really talked about as much.
No, I would agree. He's probably the underrated MVP candidate this year and Golden Boot candidate. That's kind of flown under the radar. And, I mean, obviously you have Mukhtar, who's a former MVP on the team, and you have Walker Zimmerman. So you have some big names there, right, who will get attention when you're talking about Nashville. But Sam Surridge has been fantastic. And look, Nashville's going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because FC Cincinnati went into their building and won early in the season. I was looking at it earlier today.
I mean, comeback win. Yeah.
5-6, I think. I mean, it was pretty early in the year, but they were playing well. I think they were 3-1-0 or 3-1-1 at the time. So they were in form early in the season, and you were kind of seeing glimpses. Now we've seen Philadelphia. We've seen Nashville, who we saw very early in the season. And you kind of wondered, like, was Philly that good? Well, the answer is, no doubt, yes. Right. And was Nashville that good? And the answer, again, has been yes, that they're one of the top, contenders in the Eastern Conference. So, no, the defense is going to have to be ready. The good news is, I mean, nothing has really come out this week yet about Miles Robinson, right? But the thought was that he was really close going into that Philadelphia match. So I would fully expect that he's able to play, which gets your back line, a little more complete. With Dominic Marchuk, he's had more time to be around the team and get integrated into the mix. So if they decide to go with him again on the right side, the good thing is now you have options. You have a healthy team. You have options at some of these positions, and that'll keep the opponents guessing a little bit as well.
Do you think Dominic's like we were talking about X factor, going down this stretch now that we're on the flip side of the transfer window? Do you think for FC Cincinnati he's a big X factor for us in that right wing back spot?
Man, I hope so.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the question will be, how do you get your best 11 on the pitch?
Right.
And is he part of that? And I don't know that as of today or, as of whenever you guys post this, like that Pat has that answer yet. As to what your wing backs look like. Miles will come back in. Matt will start. Those are two of your center backs. Is Nick Hagglund your third? You know what I mean? Is Lucas Engel your third center back? Is Lucas Engel your left wing back? Where's Luca Orshano? You can play left wing back or right wing back. There's more than enough strikers now that you're not going to see Luca at striker, right? But what side are you putting him on? There's benefits to both. And then what role do you want Ender Echenike in for the remainder of the year? Because you got to have Ender somewhere. Somebody who's coming on for half an hour with that pace and creating havoc, because it could be, it might be. So I think there's a lot for Pat to kind of figure out here down the home stretch and determine what his best 11 is. If everything's even and everybody's healthy for that first playoff match, which would be October 24th, 25th, 26th, somewhere, right? So we're still a month and a half away from that. But if everybody's healthy and let's count Obi back in by then, because the way that he works and does his rehab, I would hope and expect that he is. What's the best 11? I mean, I think Obi and Pavel are part of that, certainly. Right. And that's not a knock on Brian Anunga. But so we just got to figure, you got to see kind of how it shakes and where all the pieces fit. But Dom could very much, be that right wing back. I think that's fair to say.
Looking at, September 8th, 2025 right now, and first round of the playoffs is Columbus. Can you imagine three Hellas Reels in a row?
3. Like, it would definitely go 3 games, right? Like, all the hard deals in the world. Like, it'd be wild. MLS would be more than happy with that, right?
Yeah, they would.
I think knowing Columbus, they're going to pick up some points here down the home stretch.
Right.
But look who you're fighting ahead of you.
Yeah.
I mean, Orlando's red hot.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, who knows what they're going to do? They've played 400 games this year, and now Suarez picked up 3 more match suspension.
Right.
I don't think they have enough games in hand they can still win the Shield. I don't think they will, just because they have too many games and they get no break right now because they have to make all of them up, right? Great to have games in hand. Bad news is there's no weeks to fit them in. It just means you're playing every Wednesday the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Columbus could pick up some points and still fall into that 6 or 7, and FC Cincinnati could be a 2 or 3, right? And very much see them. And woof, baby, that'd be at least the travel's easy, but that would be something. I mean, I said it after the match at TQL Stadium earlier this year, like on the post game with Kevin. I was like, we're going to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
Like this thing, I just assumed it'd be like an Eastern Conference final, not the first round, but
usually it comes back around at some point. Yeah.
Yep. Funny how
and hopefully our guys are saying it's unfinished business too. It just left a bad taste in all of our mouths. But Tommy, we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. Hopefully, good results the rest of the season here. But thanks again for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, fellas. Great to chat with you anytime, and we'll do it again sometime.
Hey everyone, just a quick message from Ryan and Sam here at the Flying Lion Podcast. We wanted to share some exciting news with you. The Flying Lion Podcast has officially partnered with Chatterbox Sports. We are very excited to be a part of the Chatterbox community, as they have proven to give you the very best coverage of Cincinnati sports thus far.
For those who are new to the Flying Lion Podcast, we cover FC Cincinnati news, game recaps, analysis, and unique segments such as our trivia question of the week, jersey swap of the week, card of the week. Give us a listen on our post-match shows on every away game on Chatterbox YouTube and our weekly episodes wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again for your support.
Thanks again for listening to our chat with Tommy G. We really appreciate him coming on. A lot of insightful things there, Sam. Always enjoy having him on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tom, obviously we talked to him last offseason for those who listened to that one. And having him back on was great. Be able to cap off, the transfer window, talk about Brenner, obviously 10-year anniversary. So feeling nostalgic, talking to him about calling that and being a part of that. So yeah, I mean, Tommy G will definitely be on here in the near future as well. Barring any other, scheduled conflicts, because busy guy, right? Voice of the orange and blue. So
yeah. And what I, had taken away, I was telling you, in the break here, we're talking about Jabari, and I wanted to ask him, and we'll ask, all the fans, maybe we'll put a poll out, who had the bigger jersey here between Jabari and Kevin Kelsy? Because I think Kelsy had a double or triple XL or an extra long jersey. So I didn't get to ask him that, but I'll have to go back and, shoot him a text.
One of the ones that llooks massive if it's not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe we can get the kit guy on too and ask him. But, this is the international break. It's funny, if we had a card of the week, it would be the fact that there's still MLS teams that are playing during the international break. But with that being said, Sam mentioned it the first part of the episode. We had 6 guys, that were named to their respective countries. Let's start with Kai Kamara, Sam. Just unbelievable header. If you guys haven't seen this, go check it out. Goal from outside of the 18. And I love the first text that you sent to me was, can Kai do this for the orange and blue already?
I think that was just the response from everybody, right? Everybody, I was just reading on Twitter, Reddit, everywhere. People were just like, so can he do this in a match? We'd love to see this for us,
Yeah, their match ended in a 1-1 draw. They do play Ethiopia tomorrow or today as you're listening. I believe this is part of the World Cup qualifying for these teams.
For the African
version of qualifying. But I believe they're in third now with that draw. If we look at where Sierra Leone is who he represented. So awesome, I'm sure for Kai to go back and to represent his country. It's amazing at his age that he's still being called up, but he's that leader, that captain, for them. So that was really cool to see. Roman Celentano, like we had talked with Tommy, just a great honor for him to be involved, to be training, at least with the second part of this trip. Unfortunately, they got a loss against, South Korea, but I really look forward to, him being closer to home. I would love, I almost said it to Tommy, but for him to start at lower.com in Columbus and just have a statement performance against Japan would just be so iconic for an FC Cincinnati player, because he gets the nod over Patrick Schulte in this camp. And I think it would just be awesome for him to make the start, or at least to play 45.
Well, that was what you and I were talking about. Like, why invite him into camp if we're not going to see something, right? And coming into camp, he's the number 2 goalkeeper, right? So as such, we just lost 2-0 to Korea. Why not throw him out there, see what he's got? I mean, obviously, like if Pochettino feels confident enough to throw Matt Freese out there, then, why not see what Celentano has?
Yeah, I really hope so. We'll see. Obviously, I think everyone's a little bit puzzled on the Pochettino decision making. Again, not for this podcast, maybe for a different time. But hopefully, a better result against Japan is what we're all hoping for. Teenage Hidebe Sam played 90 minutes against Benin. He picked up a yellow card in the match. It's good for him to be playing some real live minutes. I think, he's had sporadic minutes in a few different matches lately. They do play Rwanda tonight, but for them, and seeing, I believe it's Zimbabwe that he is representing. Hopefully, again, another good performance for him, just more center back depth. That's really what we need, especially with the question mark with Miles. Does he earn that left center back spot? And recently the answer has been no. Engels kind of beat him out there, but again, good to see these guys representing their countries.
Yeah, I think obviously seeing Hidebe out there, seeing all these guys just be able to represent has been nice. A lot of them putting out, full 90s, which is pretty cool too. Hopefully keeping their fitness up, but I think all of them play on Tuesday or, tomorrow, today, whenever you're listening. And so if you listen to the first half, I think if somebody out there, Ryan, I'm going to try and, speak this into existence so that way we can just get coverage, somebody, we got to stay updated on these guys. Cause I think it was Patrick O'Leary posted the Kai Kamara header. I think it got deleted. If I'm not mistaken, like the video is unavailable now. So
yeah, no, I think you're right about that. Cause somebody had, even commented and said, I wish I could repost it, or I can't see it necessarily, but it is crazy that you can't even watch some of these matches. But yeah, so past that, Sam, I think the next person we wanted to touch on was Samuel Giddy. So he actually it was Slovakia's U21 team, and they played a 3-0 win actually against Andorra. He started in that one. It's good for him to be getting minutes too, because another guy that we could desperately use in the midfield, if he can become acquainted to playing with Buka, Anunga even at some point if we need him as a sub. I think a good opportunity for Giddy to get some minutes here.
Well, that's something that we're not really used to, honestly, with FC Cincinnati is European guys on our team getting call-ups, right? Which I know this is just with the U21 squad. But still, I think a lot of, historically FC Cincinnati guys have been, in the Americas or, Latin America, right? I think South America even, but it's been very few pickings, I feel like, for any European call-ups.
It's interesting though, because I remember this guy coming in. I had to look it up myself. He's actually applying for Slovak citizenship.
Mhm.
He was Ghanaian, and he must have had dual national,
Yeah.
capabilities, but maybe he saw more of a track for him to go and play immediately in that route, or he's just testing the waters. But cool nonetheless, to see that. And then one Kevin Denke, another guy that played, all 90 minutes, 2-0 loss, unfortunately, in their match. But they do play Sudan today, as you're listening. But a guy that I would love to see, him getting some goals for his international team and bring that confidence back to Cincinnati.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy needs some goals. And hopefully we'll see him score against Sudan. Obviously having your striker come in with confidence is going to be key. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does over there. I know Denke and Hidebe's teams, they both lost and they're kind of falling down in their standings right now for the qualifier. So we'll see how, those national teams do as a whole. But Ryan, I did quickly, obviously Steven Jimenez got called up just into the ID camp. Not much, from that, but I did look up, I guess. So when he started against Portland, the El Salvador national team head coach was actually at that match scouting Steven Jimenez for their national team because I guess his mom is El Salvador or from El Salvador. So I thought that was interesting because the future of Steven, man, it feels like he could go anywhere now. And now that El Salvador is also in the picture, him having some games played for the Mexican youth national team,
Right.
U.S. youth national team.
He's got some
Now,
options.
Yeah, exactly. Now El Salvador seems to be, an option as well. So we'll see what that looks like for him going forward.
And that's a good point because I wonder if the U.S. had seen that and they said, hey, we want to maybe get him into our program and not lose this guy, to another national team. But yeah, a cool opportunity for him nonetheless. Yet to be seen, obviously, if he's going to be called up for El Salvador or even their youth teams. But could be a good opportunity. I think one Roldan, brother Alex Roldan, I believe might have played for El Salvador as well. And they're kind of built up for the World Cup. So could have a nice MLS connection, if that stays that way. Sam, it looks like you do have a trivia question for us. Even on this international break, you're doing your work. I love it.
I was just, deep diving, trying to get into some things here before we start on the preview for Nashville. But Ryan, I wanted to just ask you a question. We don't have to go to break or anything.
Yeah.
But I'll see what people think here. So FC Cincinnati hasn't scored a goal in 2 matches or 180 plus minutes, which is crazy, right? When was the last time FC Cincinnati didn't score in 3 straight matches?
What's crazy is like this is both at home too, not even on the road. These are 2 straight home matches that we didn't score a goal. But in general, your question being in 3 straight matches, regardless of home or away, I'm going to go 2021 is the last time we didn't score. Maybe 2020, but I'm going to go 2021 as my locked in answer.
2021. All right. We will see at the end of the episode. But to roll into that next home match, Ryan, we've got Nashville, right? Just talked about it with Tommy G. Coming into this match, like Tommy G said, they're struggling too. We're kind of on similar paths. I mean, they've lost 4 out of the last 5 MLS matches and haven't really looked like themselves, and neither have we. So what kind of, team or teams, I guess, for both sides, right? What are we going to get out of this match? Like we said, beat them earlier this season 2-1, a Vander free kick, and then, Denke PK kind of saved us there. But Ryan, coming in this one, what are we thinking for lineup wise?
Oh man, that's tough because I think the international break again is a good opportunity. The other side of it, and we talked about it last time, is that some of these guys aren't back and around until Wednesday, maybe Thursday. And how does that look in getting them back together? Now, luckily, the guys that are away, I think Denk is the one that's going to be playing, the bigger majority of minutes. But I think otherwise you have to look at what you've really been wanting to build on. And I think that's probably Dominic Marzouk on the right wing back spot. a very similar back line. The only thing is if Miles healthy, then obviously he's back there. And can Lucho start and play a long majority of minutes? You don't want to push these guys out too quick now with the stretch run that we have coming up. So in my opinion, like it really depends, honestly on the health. But like we talked about with Tommy is like, what's the best 11? Who are the best players in these positions to get a result against Nashville? And Nashville is a very balanced team. I feel like their defense is pretty solid. I know Walker Zimmerman's had a little bit of a lesser role, but you see the resurgence of Hani Mukhtar. You see Surge this year. So our back line is going to be tested. And I really think that, on counters and on set pieces is when we have to be, clinical. Coming out and scoring early is the key. That we talked about that in the first part of the episode, but we haven't seen that. It's like you just said, 2 matches, no goals. Go out in the first 10 minutes and get a goal. That would just work wonders for this team.
Speaking of those goal scorers, though, do we see just a similar lineup, right, with Brenner and Denke up top with Evander, or do we try and mix it up, right? Maybe because of Jabari looking so good, right? Do we try and combat their big guy with ours and play a little hold up play, up top instead of playing in between the lines, trying to do that with Brenner and Evander?
Not a bad shout. I mean, it looked a little bit discombobulated with the 3. I think that's a good shout, especially with the Denke learning Brenner. But I think if that's the best talent, then you got to see it in a larger sample size.
Mm-hmm.
I think that our team has looked the best when you've had a big hold-up striker, and I still think that there are matches where we might need that. Is Nashville one of them? I mean, they have a pretty solid defense. They like to transition. They like to build. So that is going to create some opportunities for us. So maybe a run and gun and build through the lines might be better. Now that Brenner's been around for another week, going to UC football games and stuff. Now he's building and hopefully getting integrated with the squad and the guys around us. So for me, again, it looks positive on paper. I just hope this version of FC Cincinnati is June, May of 2025 and not August of 2025.
Prediction.
I'm going to go, man, you already had it. I 1-0 victory for FC Cincinnati. It looks
copy
like
paste. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you got to find form. It's not going to come in bucket loads right away. I mean, you got to take your wins as you can. Like the Bengals won yesterday, and it's not pretty, but it's a win. But would we absolutely love that right now for this team just to get a win?
Well, once again, Ryan, it's the 1-0 win, right? It may not look pretty, but it's going to be a 1-0 win, and we're going to get out of there with 3 points, hopefully.
You got to right the ship. I think you got to draw at minimum. If you don't draw, then you're slipping in the standings. Like you might be 3rd, potentially 4th. I just want to see better soccer. I want to see more competitive soccer. I want to see players that actually care to be out on the pitch.
Well, that's the thing that, talking with Tommy, like he didn't feel like he was able to say, but I think we are like, we kind of know Supporter Shield isn't in, the near future. So going,
it's still, it's unlikely, but
it's unlikely. But as far as like the mindset, right?
For sure.
We're looking for growth when it goes into the playoffs. We want to see the chemistry that the players have. Now, if it results into wins, that's great. That's fantastic. But at this point, it's kind of like, hey, we just want to see you play well together.
Well, so I'm going to ask you the same question then. You said, do we see Jabari there? Do you want to build in your chemistry with Brenner then, Sam?
Well, I was posing a question, but yes, I would love to see, right? Obviously, like Tom said, the Brazilian connection is something that you want to see flourish. Obviously, Evander being able to ping balls pretty much from all over the field. Hopefully, Brenner can get on the end of some of those.
Yeah, I think he's hopefully going to be more clinical. The one chance he did have, it was well wide. But I think maybe settling in a little bit, will be good for him. And we didn't see Evander shine right away in the orange and blue. If we think about at the early part of the season, it took him a little bit to get integrated.
First game he had a goal, but yeah.
Well, against a team down in whatever country we were in, but I'm talking MLS play. Like it took him a little bit. And like Tommy said, like look at 2022, I think it was June June that he started to score. I mean, it takes him a little bit maybe to get integrated, with the guys. So, but we need it now is the problem. We need him to contribute in a meaningful way. So I hope these guys come back healthy, obviously from their respective national spots, building in confidence and just feeling ready to go, because this stretch is so important for what this team is. We didn't really get to cover it from what we heard from Albright from last week, but just with the fact that, like, is there pressure? Yeah, there's always pressure. Like, we want to win, we want to be at the top, we want to win trophies. So to hear his comments on it and to kind of back what we're thinking is like, that's their mindset. And that's the way that it's been since they've been here, is just one match at a time. We take who we have in front of us. And at the end of the day, if that puts us in first, it puts us in first. So I hope that mindset can continue, but let's just see it in a better way, and obviously we see it from the GM, but we need to see it from the coach too a little bit. I'm sick of the times, I'm going to call him out on it, that I've heard like, we need to be better. That's on me. It's like, now's the time.
Yeah. So
this is the golden time.
For those wondering, the next international window will be in October. So during
the playoff,
less than a month, actually. So there's going to be another window. We're going to have to deal with this again, where it's, an elongated break, and guys got to stay fit. We got to, keep the chemistry good, everything like that. But Ryan, to wrap up the episode here, I'll give you the trivia answer here to the trivia question. So the question once again was, FC Cincinnati hasn't scored a goal in 2 matches or 180 minutes plus. When was the last time FC Cincinnati didn't score in 3 straight matches? Ryan, you had said 2021. You would be right. It was 2021. So the reason I also chose this trivia question was the first loss in that first of 3 was against Nashville. We lost 3-0 against Nashville. And then the 2 games preceding it were 0-0 draws. The one is against DC United, when they had 2 red cards and we were not able to get a single goal on them. And then the last being New York Red Bulls. So
those were dark times, Sam. We don't like to talk about those times. Hopefully this is not the trend for the team. Again, it's very reminiscent of 2024. But I think this would be a good start. You're at home again. We've said you're at home, like, meaning it's going to be a positive thing. This year it hasn't, but I think we got to find the form, now, and hopefully it's a talking to by the manager. Hopefully it's our captain getting under, some of the other guys' skin and being like, look, we're better than this. And they all know that. So I think we'll see a better squad coming out of this break, is my bold prediction from this. Not so bold. But at least maybe a more hungry team, a little bit upset about how the last couple of results have gone. But I think that's a good wrap. We want to, again, thank Tommy G for joining us for this episode. Like Sam said, we'd love to have him back on here in the future, maybe talking about an MLS Cup win down the road as well. But you guys can go and check us out on Chatterbox Sports, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We're building our following on YouTube as well. So listen wherever you listen to your podcast. And thanks again. We'll see you guys next week.